Hello, my friends. Chris Parsons here, author of It Starts With You, The Secret to a Passionate Marriage and Peaceful Home, even if your spouse doesn't want to change. And today, I wanted to talk about the power of the questions that you ask yourself. So I had someone email me, they were thinking about buying the book, and they said, but what if my wife of 31 years doesn't think our marriage is worth fighting for? And I had one question back to him. Is it worth fighting for? Right? Because whether she thinks it's worth fighting for is irrelevant. Whether he thinks it's worth fighting for is relevant. Because it only takes one person to be willing to fight for it. The other person does not have to be interested in fixing the marriage for you to fix the marriage. And I think it was Tony Robbins that said, the quality of your life is directed by the quality of questions that you ask. And this is so powerful because the questions that you ask yourself determine so much of your outcomes. Because when you ask the wrong questions, you go after the wrong thing. So here's another example of a question that my clients come into the program asking themselves is, how do I get my spouse to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is? They want to know. How do I get them to move back in? How do I get them to be committed to me? How do I get them to love me again? How do I get them to stay and not divorce me? Those are the wrong questions. And the reason why is because if you follow that path, what you will resort to is manipulation, guilt tripping, and trying to control your spouse because you're only focused on their compliance and not on their desire. Right? If you're only asking, how do I make my spouse move back in? Then you are not asking yourself, how do I make my spouse want to move back in? Right? That's a much more powerful question when you focus on creating their desire than on their compliance. Because nobody responds well to feeling controlled. And it's selfish, right? You wanting them to move back, you wanting them to not get a divorce is all about you and what you want. What about what they want, right? Right now, they don't want to be with you. But you can change their mind on that with a personal transformation. And one of the most powerful things that we use in creating personal transformations is changing the questions that you ask yourself. So here's another thing that a lot of people come into the Happy Healthy Marriage Reset program asking themselves. They want to know, how do I feel good about myself? Right? They want to know, tell me what actions to take and I'll do them and then I'll feel good about myself because I did what I was supposed to do. That's not the way my program works. It might be the way that other programs work. I don't feel good about myself for what I do. I am simply okay with myself. Because I don't feel bad about myself, I don't need to find reasons to feel good about myself. Right? And so I'm only looking at the evidence. I'm looking at, is my wife happy? Do we have a great, happy, healthy marriage? Right? And then I'm letting the evidence guide me of whether the action that I take works or doesn't work. Not based on how I think it's supposed to work, but based on the evidence. And so I don't ask myself, how do I feel good about myself? I ask myself, how do I get the outcome that I want? So look at the questions that you're asking yourself that are getting you to this point in your marriage and start asking yourself some more empowering questions, because it's all about questions. That is my greatest coaching tool, is just asking really empowering questions. I had a client that said he texted his wife, they're separated, and he asked her if she wanted to go on a date. And she didn't respond particularly enthusiastic, right? She was kind of like, meh, okay, I guess we can, whatever. And he was like, so, I guess we're going on this date. And he was going to talk about what he wanted to do at the date. And I said, well, hold on. What would a version of you that has self-respect do in this situation? Right? Because if you respect yourself, you don't want to go on a date with somebody that doesn't want to go on a date with you. And so I coached him how to handle that situation by having self-respect, right? It's not about, here's what you should do. It's about, who do you want to be, right? Do you want to be a person that has self-respect? Because if you don't respect yourself, and this applies to men and women, if you don't respect yourself, then your spouse cannot respect you. And if your spouse cannot respect you, they cannot love you. Right? All right, that's it for today. See you next time.